Please welcome your host, Dion Taylor.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. I am super excited today because I'm going to talk about how we can extend Copilot that lives inside of Dynamics 365 Sales. And guess what? We're going to use Copilot Studio for that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. If you worked with Dynamics 365 Sales before, then you know what I'm referring to when I say Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales. This is the Copilot that lives inside of the Sales Hub, which you can see here on the screen. Out of the box, sellers can use Copilot to ask questions about sales data, right? So if I click here on Get Info, I can get the latest news for an account, but I can also get information from SharePoint. I can also ask questions about what has changed with any of my records, and I can even ask Copilot to help me prep with sales appointments as well. By extending Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales, we can enhance the capabilities of Copilot to meet specific business needs. We can connect and integrate Copilot with external systems, allowing Copilot to access data from different sources and even create or update records in those systems. Now, since I don't have an external system to connect my Copilot to, I'm going to show you how to create an action from a Power Automate flow that then creates a new case inside of Dynamics 365. After that, I will create a new topic that will call this action here inside Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales. This will allow sellers to use Copilot in Sales to create a new case for the contact record that they have open. Now, let me show you what that looks like. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and say, create a case, right? This could be a salesperson that would also every now and then deal with customers that very quickly want to generate a case, right? So I'm going to say create a case, and what you'll see here is that it says that cases can only be created from a contact record. So please open a contact record. Now, if I navigate to contacts and then do the same thing again, create the case, it's again going to say, please open a contact record and try this again. So what I'll do here is I'll actually open Bill's record, and you notice that Bill is also associated with this account that we see over here. So I'm going to try this again. I'm going to say create a case, and you can see now that it's now not telling me that cases can only be created from a contact record. It's actually asking me to enter a case description. So I'm going to say products damaged on arrival. And let's see what it does now. It now tells me that a new case has been created, and here is that ID. So let's go ahead and see if we can find that. I can go here to this customer record. I can go here to customer service and look at that. Here is the newly created case. So if I open that up, let's just continue anyways, right? So you can see here, there's not a lot of information on here, right? I have my contact, my customer, my case number, and here we have the case title as well, right? So pretty cool, right? So let me show you how exactly I did this. So the first thing you'll have to do is navigate to copilotstudio.microsoft.com, and that brings you, as you can see here, inside of Copilot Studio, right? And what you want to look at is the Sales Copilot Power Virtual Agents bot. I know that is a long name, but that's really that Copilot that I was interacting with inside of Dynamics 365 Sales. So let's go ahead and open that up. And here it is, right? It doesn't give you a lot of information, but you can see there's no description or instructions. Knowledge is also not enabled in this particular one. But if I go here to topics, this is where you can see all of those different things that we can do now, right? So account news, there's some other stuff in here, Canvas app entity context. I don't even know what some of these things are, but you can see that, right? These are all of those topics that are available. Now, the other thing that we can do is obviously create new topics, but we can also add things like actions, and I believe we can either also add knowledge sources here as well. So what I'm going to show you today is how to add an action and then call that action from within that topic. So you can see here, I already have a couple of actions here available. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click here on add an action. And then as you can see, what I can do is I can actually wrap one of those Power Automate flows as an action here. Now, if you need to create a new Power Automate flow, you can do that by clicking here on this create a new flow button. So let's go ahead and do that. And that will then load my Power Automate screen, as you can see over here, right? And you can see that it says here, run a flow from Copilot and then response to Copilot. Now I'm going to keep it very, very simple. So let's go ahead and configure this Power Automate flow. Now, what I want to do with this Power Automate flow is I actually want to pass it the contact ID, right? You saw that earlier. I opened up a contact record, and when I do that, I can actually pass that contact ID. Then it also asked me a question, and it said, please enter a case description. So I want to pass that through as well. So I'm going to add two inputs. The first one is the contact ID, and then the second one is also text, where I'm going to say, hey, please enter a case description. And again, I'm going to call this my case description, right? So that's going to be my input. Then what I want to do is I want to grab that contact ID and I want to get that row. I want to query for that row. So I'm going to say add an action, and then I want to do get a row by ID from Dataverse, right? And that's what we have over here. And I'm looking for contacts. And that's also why it said earlier when I tried this on accounts that I actually have to do this from the contact table. Now, the unique ID, the GUID, is actually that what I just created here, that placeholder, right, that I had over here. So let's go ahead and search for that. That is the contact ID. So that's what I'm looking for. And then I also want to get some information from the account. So I'm going to expand my query, right, to actually get the account ID as well. So that's really all that I'm doing here. So once I have that contact ID and the account information, I want to add a new row. So again, I'm going to do add a new action. I'm going to say add a new row in Dataverse right over here. And this is going to be a case, right? So I'm going to say cases. There we go. That's my table name. And for the case title, I'm using that case description, right? So case description that we're asking the seller for. Now, again, I'm going to keep this very, very simple. Now, we want to set the account as the customer. So I'm going to say accounts, and then I want to look for the account, the value. And we got to be very careful which one we're selecting, right? Because you can see here there's two. So we want to actually select this one, where the one that says select a parent account or parent contact right, to provide yada, yada, yada. And if you hover over this, you can see here, it says body parent customer ID value. And that's what we want to put in there. Now, then lastly, I'm going to look for contacts. So I'm going to scroll down here and let's see here. We're looking for contact, not the customer contact, the primary contact. That's what we're looking for. So again, I'm going to select the contacts table, and then I'm going to look for the unique ID, right? When we're getting that row by ID, so that unique identifier of that contact, that's what I'm looking for over here. So very simple, right? We're not doing a lot. You probably want, if you're using this for production, you probably want to have a condition in here on what to do if that contact does not have an account, right? Because otherwise it is going to error out, and we don't want that. All right, then what we want to respond to Copilot is that ticket number, right? Or that case number. So again, I'm going to say, we can call this anything. I'm going to say case ID, right? That's what we're going to call this. And we want to feed that back into the chat. So I'm going to say case number, right? Once that new case has been created, I want to feed that case number back, and I can even enter a description in here as well. So once this is done, you want to make sure that you give your flow a name, obviously. So I'm going to say create a case for Copilot in D365 sales, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, let's just give it a second here. And once this is saved, we can go back to Copilot to continue building out that action. Okay, so here we are back in Copilot Studio, and I'm going to hit refresh, and then I'm going to look for my newly created Power Automate flow. Now, this could take a little bit. So if you don't see it immediately, just wait a couple of minutes or do a full page refresh, right? But I see it right over here. So let's just go ahead and select that Power Automate flow directly from within here. And then I'm going to click on next, and that's going to take me to step 2 of 3. And I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm going to show that a little bit later. I'm going to click here on next. And what we can do here is we can edit the configuration. So I'm going to click on edit here, and I'm going to change the display name and the description for the Copilot to know when it should use this action. So I'm going to say this action is used to create a case, and then my display name can just be for me, right? So this one is actually to create a case. I'm going to say 2 because, right, I already have one created that I showed you earlier. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on back, and I'm going to do the inputs and outputs a little bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on finish, and that is going to now generate or create that action. And here we are, and this is the action that we just created. Now, earlier on when I did the demo, you noticed that when I was on a view of records, so a view of accounts or a view of contacts, it actually told me that I needed to open up a contact record, right, for this to actually work. Because the reason for that is when I actually prompted for that case to be created, the Power Automate flow can actually tie that to the contact record that we have open. I'm going to show you how we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and open this action that I just created. And I could have done this earlier as well, but just this gives me a little bit more screen real estate. And that's why I'm doing this after I saved the action. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to pre-fill this contact ID. I'm going to fill that by entering the GUID, that unique ID of the contact record that I had open in Dynamics 365 Sales. So I'm going to go ahead and change this dynamically fill in with best response. And I'm going to set this to set as value. And it's going to say, right, this is going to change the way Copilot fills this input. And that's exactly what we want to do. So what we want to do is, right, grab that unique ID of that record. And we can do that by looking for a particular variable. And let me just make sure I'm actually grabbing the right one. That's this one, this global.pa Copilot model page contact ID GUID. So in here, it doesn't tell me what type of record it is. I don't know if this is a contact or an account or an order or from whatever table this record is coming from, but it will pass that unique ID of the record that is open inside of Dynamics 365 Sales. So I'm going to go ahead and feed that into that Power Automate flow, right? That's what I'm doing over here. And then here you can see that it's going to enter the case description. It's going to fill that in from that question that I'm going to set up a little bit later in my topic. So all I have to do here is click Save. Now, the other thing that you noticed in the demo is that message, right? That I was on a list of accounts and then it said, no, you have to have that contact record open. Then I was a list of contacts. And again, it said you need to have that contact record open. So I'm actually going to configure this inside of my topic. So let me show you how we can do that. So I'm going to navigate here to topics. And then I'm going to add a topic from blank. And we're going to call this create. I'm going to say create another case so I know which one is my old one, right, that I already created, and the new one that I'm creating right now. So I can put some phrases in here, right? I can say create a case, create a ticket, or add a case, whatever I'd like to do, right? But what I want to do now is put that condition in here, right? To say, hey, let's just go ahead and say add a condition. So what we want to say here is we want to make sure that we're actually looking at a contact, right? So what we can do here is we can actually select a variable, because you can see here there's a bunch of variables in here already. So the one that's really important is the one that shows us what type of entity this is. And we're going to use this bottom one that says this global.pa Copilot model page context page, blah, 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 entity type name. So this is going to tell us what table we're looking at. And we want to look at the contact table, right? So I'm going to say that is the contact table. Now, another condition that I need to add, because I cannot run this from a list of contacts, right? So I want to select another variable, and that's actually going to be, let me just search for that. That's the one that you see here. This top one, the global.pa underscore Copilot model page context ID, and then the GUID, right? So we're going to say this GUID needs to have data, which means I'm actually on a contact record inside of Dynamics 365. So I'm going to say, here we go, is not blank. So we want to make sure that we're looking at a contact table and that we actually have an individual contact record open, right? So that's what that means. So I'm going to go ahead, and if that is the case, then we're going to move ahead and we're going to actually ask a question, and we're going to say, please enter the case description. And then we can go ahead and put in the full response. And instead of calling this var1, I want to say case description, or I could say case topic or whatever I wanted to say, right? So here we now have the case description. And then what I want to do is I want to call that action that I just created. So I'm going to call an action, and I'm going to go to that action, and that is here, create a case 2. I'm going to click on that, and here you can see there are no inputs, right? Because we already configured that. So I don't have to enter an input over here. It's going to get that input, that GUID of that contact record in this action, and then right in the Power Automate flow. And then lastly, I'm going to send a message where I'm going to say a new case has been created. The case number, or you can put something else idea in there, is, and then here we're going to feed back this case ID, right? That's what we're getting back from that Power Automate flow and from that plugin action. I'm going to go ahead and put a dot in there. And then lastly, we also want to put in a condition over here, right? If we're doing this from the contact list, from a contact view or an account record or whatever that might be, I'm going to send a message here. And what I'm going to put in this message is that cases can only be created from a contact record. So I'm going to go ahead and say exactly that. Cases can only be created from a contact record. Please open a contact record and try this prompt again, right? And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and say we want to go ahead and end the current topic, right? So that's how you do that. Now, don't forget to actually save your changes, right? Save that topic you just created. And then also don't forget to publish your changes. And then you can go inside of Dynamics 365 into the Sales Hub, and you can try that out, and you can build more topics and more actions and do a lot of fun stuff there. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Thanks for watching. Until next time.